Hi there, general audience of YouTube. I wanted to show you this joint, this woodworking joint. It's one of my favorites. I'm calling it, it might have an official name, I'm calling it a dovetail lap joint. And the idea is that you have this dovetail and a half lap of the dovetail shape cut into another piece of wood, and they simply fit together like so. Then you have a nice solid connection. One big advantage of this joint to me is that you really don't need to clamp it when gluing. It can be pulled out, and there isn't really anything pushing it away from the bottom of the lap cut in there. So if you clamp it down once with the glue on it, you can probably just take the clamp off and it will hold itself right in there. So I think it looks really nice. I think it's a pretty joint, and I think it's fairly simple to do in a way that minimizes gaps, and that's what this video is all about. It's going to show you what my process is of making these dovetail lap joints. Enjoy. So I start off by cross-cutting all of the dovetail pieces to their correct length. I use a stop block there near the fence in order to get an accurate length for each one, consistent. Now I'm marking with a knife all the shoulders of the dovetail tenon part. You can see when I start on the adjacent face, I don't go all the way across because that's going to be the face of the dovetail, and I don't want to cut across that part. Alright, now I'm angling my table saw to make the dovetail cuts. So now I'm using my tenon jig with the table saw blade angled to cut these dovetails. This tenon jig has really come in handy a lot of times. Really nice for making these consistent and quick cuts. Next step is to cross-cut all of those little pieces off. Here are the 4 for this dovetail board. I'm doing the last one slow for you. Now I'm paring down right to the knife mark on the shoulders with my chisel. You gotta love it when things actually go as planned in the video. This one turns out really nicely. After getting the shoulders, then you clean up the cheeks by just sliding the chisel right into the corner there. And that one just pops out really nicely. The next process takes a little bit of finesse. This is scribing from the dovetail onto the board that it's going to be joined to. You have to line up the dovetail board exactly how you want it. Hold it down so it's not going anywhere, and then really carefully mark the line exactly where the two meet up. There you can see the lines completed. So now I want to draw a perpendicular line on the adjacent faces. Well, you'll see in a sec. Right here I'm getting the depth that I'll need to go. And alright, so I'm using the depth and 90 degrees there to scribe a line so I know where to cut when making this lap joint. Once again, using the knife to keep it as accurate as possible. It's always a trick trying to avoid covering everything up with your hand. I'm still trying to figure out these angles. Now I'm just marking in the total depth, the depth line, so I know where to chisel to. And it's almost time to cut these out. First I'm doing the Paul Sellers knife wall by creating a little divot here on one side that my saw can ride against. Using my knife to clean that up. I'll do the other one quick here. And now it's time to saw. Alright, I've flipped the board over to cut the other side now. I find it's easier to saw this way. Now this is one of the funner parts for me, and that is knocking out these this waist where the dovetail will fit. Using a 1/2-inch chisel on this side. Then when I flip it over I use a 1/4-inch chisel because a 1/2 won't fit in there. I'm going down almost to where the marking gauge marks the depth, but not quite. I'll do that at the end just to make sure I'm as precise as possible and the chisel doesn't get pushed back into the material it's not supposed to. Now I'm going right down to the marking gauge depth line. This part of the process needs a fairly sharp chisel. We're going to chop down on the end grain here to get right to the knife mark. The camera shows the knife mark pretty easily there, which is nice. Then I sort of flip this orientation around and give you an angle of the other side. You can see the knife mark once again where my saw didn't quite get right down to it. But the chisel does a good job. So now I sort of cover up this shot with my hand a little bit, but I'm checking to see how tight it is. If it takes a hammer to pound it, it might be a little too tight for glue to fit in there as well. And here I have a rough time getting it out. Here's kind of a tricky part of the process. I'm going to eliminate some of the inside of this dovetail, the part that won't be seen when the two pieces are mated, which will help the two pieces slide together a little bit easier. So I'm not going to take any away from the front edge or too close to the outside of the dovetail, because we don't want to see any gaps. So this is just the invisible part of the joint. Now another test fit. This one goes pretty well, except right at the end there's a little bit protruding. So I need to make the half lap a little bit deeper. And here's the finished joint, kind of what they should look like. Decent. Well, so now you know how I make these, so you should get up there and try it. Let me know if you ever try one of these in your projects. I think they're really cool, solid, they look nice, and not that hard to do. Okay, that's all I have. See you around. In my opinion, like I said, one of my favorites. Yeah, this one's a little tight.